when I was a philosophy major myself, when I was an undergraduate in college, I received all kinds of flack from my Christian friends who thought it was a leap into godlessness to busy my mind with godless philosophy. And there was no end to the citations from the sacred scripture about beware of godless philosophy. But I came to the conclusion that you can't beware of something that you're not first aware of it. And I talk about having been converted to Christ in my freshman year in college. And of course, that was the most significant event in my life, my conversion to Jesus. But I was just talking to my wife, Vesta, the other day about, I said, isn't it something that sometimes you can have a day in your life or a moment in your life that changes the entire course of your life forever? And I said, I had such a day when I was a college student. I was a brand new Christian. I had to take introduction to philosophy as a requirement to satisfy social studies and so on. I was completely disinterested in it. I sat in the back of the room, and instead of listening to the lectures, I was reading pamphlets were copies of Billy Graham's sermons, because that's what interested in me. I wanted to know the Bible and nothing else but the Bible. And one day, my professor, who was the head of the philosophy department where I went to school, who actually was a Christian, was giving a lecture on Augustine and Augustine's doctrine of the creation of the universe, where Augustine talked about God's creating ex nihilo through divine fiat, or the divine imperative, by simply saying, let there be, and reality came into being. I was so moved by that lecture that maybe it was an impulse, but I went from that lecture room downstairs to the registrar's office, and I changed my major to philosophy. And that changed the whole course of my life and of my ministry, because the study of philosophy helped me, first of all, understand the whole aspect of critical analysis and how to be alert to logical fallacies and problems of that sort, and to learn the whole history of theoretical thought, much of which has been used to help convey the truth of Christianity to the whole world. You know, the medieval university, it was said that theology was the queen of the sciences and philosophy was her handmaiden. Well, that's been true in my experience and in my teaching. I've been very blessed to have been able to have that background in philosophy to help me understand so much of what is involved in theological reflection. Now, at the same time, there's much of philosophy, particularly contemporary philosophy, that's a barren wasteland. But it's a good thing to understand it and not be intimidated by it. You know, the one book that I read that I don't read critically in that sense is the Bible. Because when I read the Bible criticizes me. I don't criticize it. But when I run into all kinds of apparent theologies and like liberal theology, I immediately see the philosophical assumptions and presuppositions that undergird and have prompted these deviations from historic Orthodox Christianity. So it's been a very great blessing for me to have had that background in philosophy. So I commend you for it.